Celebrity Interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing amazing. And I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have one of my favorite people, Jennifer Hart, as our guest right now.
All right, Stephanie. So we're excited to welcome Stephanie Powers from Heart to Heart and much, much more, and some amazing accomplishments we're going to discuss today. Stephanie, thanks for stopping by. How are you? And
Right.
it's happy to have you on the show.
Is there any wine in that grotto?
Oh, there is
There
wine.
is, there
Is
is, there
there?
is.
So you have
Yes.
to be invited
I
when you go to
know.
Boston. Good.
Are you a devotee of the vine, or what do they call it?
I am not.
Oh, you've got a lot of holes over there that I can see, and just a few bottles. You need
Yes, just a few.
to stop, Greg.
But you can stock it up for him, Stephanie. That's for sure. Okay, so Greg, go ahead with your first question.
That's great. Stephanie, it's a real pleasure to speak with you. A huge fan of Jonathan, Jennifer, and Max. It was a lot of fun growing up watching that show. But as you reflect on the popularity of Heart to Heart, what aspects of the show do you believe have contributed to the lasting appeal over the last 45 years?
Oh gosh. Well, if I knew the full chemistry of it, I could retire. But I think it was, and it seems to me that with the new audiences that are coming on and the feedback that I get from people who see it for the first time in another generation is that it's just such good escapism. And it's pretty, it's romantic, it has a little adventure, but it's all mainly the relationship between these two people, which is a wonderful rapport. And I think it's what everybody looks for. Women are always looking for their Jonathan, and I think whatever men like the show, I think are looking for their Jennifer.
Because of how important in a relationship friendship is part of it, then, right? And
Yes, and sort of mutual respect, and I think that's what the relationship was based on. When we were, shaping it in the very beginning and trying to establish what the rapport would sound like and what it would be like, because Robert Wagner and I had a great deal to do. Excuse me, a great deal to do with the shaping of the content of the show. We didn't want to have a kitchen sink drama, if you know what I mean. Wouldn't want to argue. We were two people who had arrived at a certain point in our lives and chose to be together, respecting each other and wanted to enjoy life with each other. So as as a fanciful idea as that is, that's what it was. It was not intended to be a dramatic show.
Great. Well, I had another question, which I'll get to, but you said 7 dogs, and that piqued my interest because
Five.
I have
Well,
two. So,
if
what
I
kind of dogs do you have?
if I count all the dogs I have, because I live in two other countries, I have in Kenya, I have 3 dogs, all strays. Everybody's a stray except for one. Well, 2 of them here that I took over from friends of mine who had passed. One passed during COVID, and he's a great big boy. He's a golden doodle. He's 76 pounds. Can you imagine? 76 pounds of love. And when he comes at you with all this love, you've got to make sure that you're holding on to something. They're absolutely wonderful.
wow.
Fantastic.
So I have one dog, and Greg, you have two?
At the moment, I have 2, a German Shepherd and a yellow lab.
Oh, yes. Well, there you go. These big boys. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're wonderful. They're just full of love. And,
No.
and I had a
Yeah.
shepherd as well once.
Yeah. Here he
Always,
is right now. Hey, Teddy.
yeah, you can hear all these.
Oh, Teddy. Hello, Teddy boy.
So that definitely means your love for animals is tremendous, Stephanie, right? It's
I
important.
also have 14 horses. So,
Wow.
and
Wow.
2 of them are also adopted and sort of rescued. Um, and so, and the parrot who's been in my life for 51 years. I guess you
Wow.
could say that my longest single relationship is with a green bird.
That's amazing. Well, great. So, William Holden, Wildlife Foundation. So, question I had, portraying Jennifer Hart, did that portrayal have any effect on your personal life and career, and how you do with the foundation and so forth, or is
Yes,
it
well,
totally segmented? Or
we live in a world, we live so quickly, we don't, nobody has time to remember long periods or a lengthy career. I've been blessed with being able to have a long career, so which I began when I was just 15 and turning 16. So
Wow.
I've been a professional. I've had my SAG card since 1962. So it's been a long, long run. And I was under contract to Columbia Pictures. I got the tail end of the studio system, which was an incredible experience. I will say that I'm sorry that it's over, but I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And it taught me so much. And I was able to meet and work with such an extraordinary bevy of amazing performers, actors, well known and less well known, but a wonderful resource of talent. Then, when the studio system broke up, they sold my contract to MGM for a television series called The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. That show, while when nobody made anything of it at the time because it wasn't, I don't know that it was that big an issue. It was the first hour-long television series starring a woman. It's called The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. And one season meant 29 hour length episodes. Can you imagine? Today,
Wow.
I think, well, a season is what, 10?
Right. Sometimes
Very
8.
short. Yeah.
Sometimes 8
Sometimes
Netflix
8.
now. Or 6. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And do you so selling it, so there was contracts with the studio. Interesting. And that it's
Well,
almost
that was the system. You were put under contract to a studio. They owned you, and they would put you in whatever they chose to. If you didn't like it and you didn't want to do it, then you were put on suspension. Mind you, they were paying you peanuts, and they would loan you to other companies where they would get more for you. So they loaned me to Paramount to play John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara's daughter in a comedy western called McClintock. And then I was loaned to Warner Brothers to play opposite Troy Donahue and Connie Stevens and all the young teen stars in something called Palm Springs Weekend, which is a sort of cult. It's like a cult film. And as long as there's Palm Springs Weekend will constantly be shown in every film festival in Palm Springs. And so from there were many, many jobs. And I also worked in the theater a great deal. And when Heart to Heart came along, in fact, I was working with Stacy Keach in a production of Cyrano de Bergerac that we were opening out of town in San Francisco and on our way to New York when Robert Wagner and Aaron Spelling and Tom Mankiewicz called me and said, we're doing this pilot called Heart to Heart. And we'd love you to consider, playing Jennifer Hart. And I said, well, I don't know. I'd love to because I loved all of them and we were all friends. It's great to work with friends. But I was committed to Cyrano. And Aaron Spelling said, well, I've heard that there's going to be a newspaper strike in New York. And traditionally, when there's a newspaper strike, there are no new plays that come into town because you can't publicize them. So that was going to be a contributing factor as to whether we would leave San Francisco and go to New York. Well, it was the best newspaper strike of my life because they struck. We couldn't go into town into New York with Cyrano, and I was able to do the pilot of Heart to Heart. So it was a happy ending.
okay.
Wow. So Teddy. So Stephanie, this earlier this year, I guess you went to the UN
So
to get an
Teddy, what's he
agent's.
doing? What's
He's
Teddy
trying to go
doing?
outside. Teddy, come here, bud. So earlier this year, you got to go to the UN, I understand, for an Agents of Change award. Could you tell us a little bit about, why they gave that to you and what it was like receiving that?
Well, it was a very nice honor to be included among those listed for recognition on in a special presentation that was introduced on that occasion, which is an ebook, which highlights the work of a number of people, and I'm very flattered to say that I'm included in it, and our work with the William Holden Wildlife Foundation is included. I formed that organization in 1982. We got our IRS status, and it was after Bill's death in 1981. Calling him Bill because William Holden and I were a couple for the last 10 years of his life. When Bill died, one of the things he wanted to do, because the world had never known, he was a great big movie star. They knew his work as a film star, but nobody knew that he was really a very serious and very forward-thinking wildlife conservationist. He never publicized it. He never talked about it. He didn't want to capitalize on his good work that was being done, but he was a visionary because he created the first ever game ranch for the preservation of wildlife in 1959, when nobody had the word conservation in their vocabulary. So Bill had always wanted to build an education center for local people to learn about conservation, about biodiversity, about the importance of preserving and maintaining a happy balance between nature and mankind. And we currently and have been serving since 1982. We started with upwards of 10,000. Now we have consistently 11,000 students a year that come through our education system, through our education center. We also have an outreach program into some very rural areas and quite primitive areas in terms of electricity and water, electricity, all of the conveniences that we live with. And that covers a population of roughly between 5,000 and 6,000 people.
Okay.
So we are very busy, and we also have, so our mission statement, which will put it in perspective, is wildlife conservation through education and alternatives to habitat destruction. So it's the habitat destruction that we're very concerned about because, of course, it deals with climate change and with the need to produce food through regenerating soil in a way that will return, not only attracting carbon and moisture, but it will return biodiversity to the soil that is so depleted and needs ever increasing chemicals, which are poisonous, in order to produce anything. And of course, as you may know, chemicals have a lifetime of production, but then they go backwards. And when you overuse the chemicals, it can have very negative effects. So we're trying to imprint on everyone this methodology. And we've got 7 projects that are producing wonderful amounts of food continually all year long.
Wow. Wonderful. Now, Greg, if you have any other questions before your final question, Greg.
Well, one quick one, besides all the things that you're doing, I mean, you're also an author. Can you tell us real quickly about your book?
Oh, well, several books. I've written I've written several books on physical fitness, and I did write the beginnings of a biography. I say that because it's I'm still alive, and there's still more to tell. But it was at a time when My mother had passed, and I was diagnosed with lung cancer, and I needed to, and my boyfriend was ill with cancer that eventually took him.
Hmm.
So I needed to exorcise and find a way out of my quagmire and out of the situation that I was in, with having felt such a great amount of loss. Everybody deals with loss in a different way. I chose to deal with it by creating something such as the William Holden Wildlife Foundation, such as the memorial to my mother and to my late boyfriend, and I wrote a book. So that was for me, a catharsis and a way of turning something into something positive.
Mm-hmm. All
But
right.
there's a lot more to tell. So
Oh, yeah, we could have a part two for sure. Greg, go ahead with your final question that we ask all our celebrities.
Petty. He's trying to go out the window.
We don't see him, so that's okay.
what a
That's
shame.
great.
I'd love to see him. Yeah.
We'll tell it. This has been a real pleasure to meet you and to have a chance to speak. I can't wait to hear the answer to this one. But so tell me, Stephanie, what do you feel is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
Oh, well, I've learned that you never stop learning, first of all. I don't look back on learning as something that's been in the past tense. I think a day without learning is like a day without sunshine. I just watched a very interesting documentary on Martha Stewart, and it's one of her credos that she has to learn something every day. And I certainly concur, because if we are not keeping ourselves engaged and alive, and life is about change, whether we like it or not. Some of it's not so good, but we have to cope with it. And it's also about reinvention. We're constantly reinventing ourselves and using whatever resources we have through our own curiosities to be able to enlarge our scope. I guess that's very important to me.
It sounds like it seems very important to you for sure. And what a great answer that Greg and I should take. And a lot of the celebrity answers are just really good for us to live in our daily lives. And that's one always learning for sure, Stephanie. Where's the best place people can find info on you and go? Where is the best place that you would recommend them to go?
The William Holden Wildlife Foundation's website is the acronym. It's WHWF.org. And I hope you'll come on, and I hope you'll look and get interested, and maybe even join us.
All right. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show.